If you are feeling overwhelmed by launch planning and not sure what type of launch actually fits your offer, your energy, or business goals, then in this episode, we are breaking down the 3 core types of launching: small, medium, and big, the big ass launch, so that you can choose the right one for your next move. We are also talking about our brand new Launch Lessons private podcast. And so inside this episode, I'm actually highlighting episode 3 in our Launch Lessons private podcast, where we walk you through the Goldilocks method of launching, real life examples of launch sizes, how to match your launch type to your offer, your audience, and your energy. And then, the one question to ask before choosing your next launch strategy. So whether you're just getting started or planning your signature program rollout, this episode will help you take the guesswork out of launching so you can scale with clarity and confidence. I can't wait for you to listen to all the details here, but also make sure you go grab our new free private podcast, Launch Lessons, so you can get step-by-step launch strategies, real talk, and proven systems to help you sell with confidence. Just go to hollymariehaines.com/launch lessons. Welcome back to this week's pep talk. And if you haven't caught on, the theme of the last couple episodes is all about launching. So I wanted to just remind you that our brand new private podcast, Launch Lessons, is out. It's hollymariehaines.com/launch lessons. And today I'm actually giving you a sneak peek into another one of the episodes inside Launch Lessons. And that is the 3 different types of launches and how to choose which one is right for you. So my friend Whitney and I call this the Goldilocks approach to launching. So it's like small, medium, big kind of thing, or big ass launch as we call it. And so I'm going to share some behind the scenes of real life examples for each and help you to decide, if you are thinking about launching, which one to plan next. Because yes, launching can be fun and should be something that you do this quarter or next quarter. So again, our recommendation is at least twice a year or once a quarter, depending on what type of business that you run. So first things first, the size does matter. So insert eye rolls and all the inappropriate jokes, but the size of your launch does matter. And not all launches have to be massive. And so skipping straight to a big, huge launch might be super overwhelming for you if you've never done it before. It might be the wrong launch because you haven't warmed up your audience or tested your offer. And it might be the recipe for overwhelm and potentially crickets, depending on what your audience looks like. And so the whole purpose of this episode is to really just make you slow down to speed up. And like anything else in business, think about launching as a skill, right? So think about launching as, I'm going to pick the right launch for my schedule, the right launch for my audience, the right launch for my mindset, and then I'm going to build it and scale it in the right way, which is where our Launch Lessons podcast comes into play. But for today's episode, let's talk about the different launch sizes, which we actually talk about in episode 3 of the Launch Lessons podcast. So the first size is super easy, and that is a small launch. So a small launch is what I consider 1 to 2 steps, right? So think of it as like a quick win, like a low lift kind of launch. And so an example of a small launch might be a 10-day email sequence where you're just selling via email and we're not doing anything fancy, but we're drawing attention to something that we're really excited about. It could be a couple weeks focus on Instagram, right? So you could be selling to an in-person event. You could be selling a very specific thing, but we're just doing one step. We're not doing all the steps. It could also be selling directly after a speaking engagement or selling directly after a summit or a bundle or a podcast guest spot that you've been in. So again, this is a small launch because it's 1 to 2 steps. Small launches don't mean small income. It just means that we are focusing our efforts on 1 to 2 things. We recommend that small launches are best for digital products or one-time sort of low ticket offer. So under $300-ish are really great for a like one-step focused launch. It's also great for testing a new idea. So something that you just want to put out there and see if there's any interest to, which we highly recommend, or bringing back an older offer. So something that maybe is a little bit older that needs some attention, or something that you've like redone. And it's just a great way to sort of test your audience. It's also a 1 to 2 step small baby launch. It's also great for re-engaging a warm audience, right? So these are all different ways that you can put something out there, increase your income, get excited about your offer, and it's a great place to start. It's a great place to start if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't want to take a lot of steps, but you still want to launch something. It's also a great place to start if you need to grow your audience and expand beyond your warmest circle, right? This is a great way to just like get some momentum going. And so that's what we recommend for a small launch or a baby launch, as I call it. A medium launch is 3 to 5 steps. So this is a structured strategy. Like we're starting to plan a little bit more with a little bit more buildup and a little bit more nurture. So an example of this would be you're going to put out a new lead magnet, there's a nurture sequence, and then there's like an open cart, you're selling something. It could also be you're going to teach a free workshop or masterclass or challenge, there's follow-up emails, and then there's like a live Q&A where you're selling. It could also be where you're talking about something like our co-op or like a high ticket program. And then you've got discovery calls where you're launching it sort of on the back end. So again, there's 2 to 3 steps here. It's a little bit bigger, but this is best for mid-ticket offers. So that $300 to $2,000 range. I always say anything over $2,000, you probably need a discovery call or some sort of like step where you're talking to the person in person. It's also great for a medium launch, is great for warming up new leads. So introducing people to you, how you teach, what you do, what you're offering. And it's also great for growing your email list while you're selling. So a medium launch in this case is if you have 2 to 4 weeks to prepare, so you've got a little bit more time. It's also the scenario where maybe your audience needs a little more convincing or a little more education before buying. And, I say that a medium launch is like you're ready to scale without going into the full on Olympics, right? So maybe you want to try a little bit more complicated launch, but you're not ready for like the big ass launch. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I need to grow my email list a little bit more. I need to work on visibility. So a medium launch is a great sort of formula for that. And then the last type of launch in our Goldilocks model is the big ass launch. And I call it that because it is like the Olympics of launching. And it is 6 to 8 weeks. I did a podcast 2 weeks ago on the results of our anti-social school launch. It was a big ass launch. It took me almost 8 weeks to get through. It is a full-blown campaign layered with strategy, partnerships, pre-launch, launch, post-launch, all the things. An example of this would be our anti-social school launch, but also it's the scenario where you have a launch runway. So you're launching or drawing attention to a lead magnet, probably followed by a challenge, a workshop, an in-person event. Maybe you're adding in affiliate support, and then you've got your actual launch, and then you have a downsell on the back end. This is really great for big ticket offers, group programs, signature courses, or if you're selling something to do something in person, right? The key with any big ticket launch is like you've got multi-platform visibility, upsells, downsells, like you've got all the different paths going on. And I don't want to sound like big ass launches are like, oh my God, there's so much. They are a lot, but if you plan them strategically, they're not hard. There's just steps that we have to execute. So the big launches are great for when you've tested in a smaller launch and you know that that way converts. It's also great for when you're ready to just like build buzz and you're like, you know what, I'm here, I'm ready to do it. I want to attract cold leads. I want to grow my audience and I want to launch. And then obviously this is great if you have a team and systems and support because you are able to execute a lot of the steps a little bit easier. I like doing one big ass launch a year. I feel like it creates serious momentum and gives you insight that you can ride for months, right? The momentum and the insight is something that's going to stick around for a minute. And then you can layer in like the smaller launches and the medium launchers like every quarter or every other quarter. So How do you choose which launch? Well, you should head on over to hollymariehaynes.com/launch lessons because we have a whole flow chart for you, which is going to help you figure out what to choose and why and when. But you can also ask yourself, what am I selling? Am I selling a low ticket? Am I selling a high ticket? And am I selling something in person? If you're a brick and mortar, there are different strategies you can use. Do you want just a little bit of foot traffic? Do you want a lot of foot traffic? So you got to answer some strategic questions at first. The next question, which is probably the most important, is how much energy and capacity do you have this quarter? Because if you are planning a big ass launch and you do not have the energy to keep it up, it is not going to work. And then last but not least, do you need to grow your audience or convert one that you already have? And so a lot of times when my clients are launching and they're like, I hear crickets, we have to figure out why. Is it because you haven't grown your audience since the last time that you launched? Is it because we need more steps to convert them from cold to maybe a little bit warmer or hot? What is that sweet spot for you? And it's different for every single person and every single business. So your homework for listening to this episode is choose one type of launch, small, medium, big ass, big, whatever you want to call it, and map it out. Like, when do you want to do it? What does that look like? How do you feel about that? And if you want more support about building your plan, that is exactly what we walk through inside Launch Lessons, which is a brand new free private podcast that I did with my friend Whitney Abraham. And it gives you step-by-step guidance, real life case studies, and no BS strategies that actually work. So you can just go to hollymariehaynes.com/launch lessons. And, whether you're dreaming up your first digital product or ready to scale your signature offer, I hope that you can see that there is definitely a launch that will fit your schedule and your energy and your income goals. And that is where the secret sauce is held. So let me know, what type of launch are you planning next? And then head to Launch Lessons so we can get your plan in motion.